Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I just wanted to touch a bit on what Michael mentioned earlier about the architecture profession. So I wasn't actually from the built environment industry, but having joined it, one key observation I made about the industry is that in other sectors, typically if you offer the same service year on year, you get to at least increase prices by inflation. But in the built environment industry, every year is going downwards. Okay, so the answer to this bigger systemic solution, I mean, this question I do not have. So what I can do is just to play my small part in digitally transforming the industry. Okay, so yeah, I'm from Operva.AI, and what we do is we are a tech company specializing in infrastructure solutions, inspection, and site monitoring. So in terms of the tech that we do, right, we do software automation, 3D model, and also AI algorithm. But because our data capture method is 95% using drones, so most of us would have, most of the people would have known us as a drone company. So that's what we are being known for. R&D work started in 2021, small team, 9 to 10 people, depends on whether you count the interns or not. And of course, we have done quite a lot of missions both in Singapore and also Southeast Asia. Locally grown Singapore startup and SEC accredited. But enough about our company. So today, what I really wanted to share with you, using our software as an example, right? But any software out there is also fine. It's about really having the industry transform, adopting technologies. So I talk about some of the problem statements and how technology can address it, depending on where you are on this adoption curve. Okay, so first, when we talk about progress monitoring, there's this horizontal and vertical. So horizontal meaning if let's say you are constructing over 4 km of land, you want to monitor the progress month on month, or let's say you are building a building, vertically, and then you just want to track the z-axis progress. So prior to drones, so drones have been around for a long time already, probably 4+5 years. But before that, how people solve it, ground walk, maybe using satellite imagery. So all these have their pros and cons. Once drone come into play, right, then we can actually take a lot of images, stitch them together to form a 2D orthophoto, meaning a large photo, or we stitch them together to form a 3D model. So then that way you can visualize how the progress is. So technology is actually never ending, and then human beings are never satisfied. So even if you use drone to capture the data, you form all the 3D model and 2D orthophoto, but if you don't have an inspection or a mapping software, or you don't use AI to go and process the data, so the amount of time that your analyst or your engineer need to sit on the desk is still going to be quite a lot. So then the next stage of evolution is to use AI to, for example, identify and label defects or privacy elements that you capture in the photos itself. Okay, but even with the software and the AI, people are still not satisfied. So you would want to have the defects being tagged onto the 3D model automatically. So basically, you can make use of the GPS data on the images to tap it onto the 3D model, and then you can rotate it around to visualize where it is. Okay, but that is still not enough, because if you want to do, for example, compliance reporting, right, there are a lot of things that you want to do needs to be automated. BCA has some reporting requirements that you need to adhere to. If you just use a generic international software, your engineer might still need to sit in front of the computer, generate everything into Microsoft Word, and then edit from there. So again, that is not very effective. So in adoption of technology, what we would encourage you to do is really take some time to understand what is provided, and then analyze. And later I'll talk about some of the adoption key learnings that we have experienced over the years. So here I will just share some videos about our software. Again, doesn't have to be our software. Any software can do the job, but just choose the right tool. So here you can see a 2D orthophoto. If you compare it across time, right, for example, comparing July and April, then you just switch the slider in the middle, and then you can see, okay, probably 1 year ago, it was still a lot of mud, and then now you have some buildings already. So it will be automatically mapped because of the GPS data. So that is the 2D orthophoto. So here we have the 3D model to illustrate or to visualize what happens vertically. So here you can see this 3D model. And then of course with the 3D model, it looks nice, but you want to have actually some practical tools inside. You can do measurements, volumes, height, angles, and then you can also make observations and notate them. So that is where the 3D model would actually become really value adding. Because, for example, if you use Google Earth, the data is going to be outdated. Okay, with drone capture data, you can have it on demand whenever the drone is being flown. You want to fly it, once a month. That's also possible. Okay, then we talk about using AI to process the data. So here you can see, for example, there's AI detect and then AI anonymization. So if you have a crack, the AI will actually automatically detect it with a bounding box. Okay, if you have some vehicles or human beings, the AI would just basically mask it off. So that way, I mean, here is just 2 images, but imagine if you have 1,000 images without AI, it's going to be quite painful. Tagging the defects onto the 3D model. So if you see a 3D model of a building, right, and then you have some defects, you don't want to keep on rotating around and then tag it. It may be error prone as well. So in this example, there's a pin blistering, and then it is identified by the AI, and then it can also be automatically tagged to the level 2 of the building where it was observed based on the GPS data. Okay, lastly, just now I talked about having automated reporting. So this is a dashboard. It summarizes all the observations, and then a 3D model here. But essentially, with all the information that has been captured previously, one click, it can generate a PDF report, and then from there you can do your review and BCA submission. So what kind of tool you use, right, essentially depends on the use case that you have. So in the kind of learning points that I just want to bring across, okay, across this industry or any kind of industry that when you adopt tech. And bearing in mind, so we are a service provider, but we actually also engage services of other services provider. So we have experience from both sides. Learning point number 1, first, please design good processes and then automate later. Because if you don't do this, you will end up automating rubbish. So we want to take a business first approach and then tech second. Tech is supposed to serve the business, not the other way around. A lot of times when we come from a tech perspective, right, because a lot of things is really nice, but it doesn't mean that what can be done should be done. Okay, so some examples here, depending on the kind of processes or that you have, ensure that you think about the process design first. Okay, next, ensure adequate change management. All kind of tech implementation is a form of change management. So there's going to be things that you will need to address in your organization. So we encourage you do proof of concept, and then please make sure it is paid. Because if it is not paid, your vendor has no incentive to really perform. Of course, you can argue for a lower fee, but please pay. Okay, 3. So in the process of using AI and automation, right, we know that it's fantastic, but we want to really stress that human in the loop is very important. And then this actually comes from my colleague who's an AI guru. He say human in the loop is very important. Why? Because, for example, when we train up our own AI, or we deploy it in the real world, whether is it inspection report or autonomous drone flight, right? It has shown us that AI is a powerful assistant to humans. Because in the end, especially if it is safety related, someone has to sign off. Until the day that AI can sign off and then there's a name, there's an accountability to it, we are still quite some distance away from that. Okay, last, everything is about cost. So please ensure that you have a comprehensive assessment of the full life cycle software cost. Understand what is the fixed component of the implementation, what is the variable component, okay, things like storage costs. So basically, have a full project overview. So this is really what I want to share with you guys today. So going forward, everything has to be cheap, everything has to be good. Use AI, and I wish everybody success. Thank you.